Zaman dulu punya cerita. That time belum Asian Champions League tu. Saya cakap Asian Champions League. The current study. Current modern football ni sebenarnya. So that is pencapaian JDT. Now, berapa banyak followers JDT ada dalam social media kalau combine Twitter, Instagram and Facebook? Almost 5 million lebih. Berapa banyak followers dalam on social media? Okay. So, dalam segi commercial value pun kita boleh tengok. Jadi apa yang saya cuba terangkan di sini kepada Cik Ikan Ayu ni, dia ni daripada Nigeria. Saya rasa saya
Two more minutes to start. The team will present today. Kindly stand by.
Sure, Doctor.
Okay, the team will present. You can share screen, then you can start.
Do we start, Doctor?
Yes, yes, you may proceed.
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
All right. So good afternoon, Doctor and my colleagues. So we are from Group 10, me merged with Abdulaziz and Robin. And today we are going to talk about Washington Accord and Engineering Accreditation Council. Before talking about Washington Accord, we need to know about the International Engineering Alliance, which is actually an umbrella for 7 agreements. Washington Accord is one of them. Besides Sydney Accord, Dublin Accord, and also other agreements, most of them, they are target the engineers, technicians, and also the technologists. They have members from 23 nations. And what they want is to be an accepted independent authority that provide the best practices in terms of standards, assessment, and also monitoring of the engineering education programs in order to improve the global quality, productivity, and the mobility of the engineers who are the outcome or the output of these engineering education programs. So Washington Accord is actually an agreement between a national organization, which means from each country there is an organization that represents this country, and they call them the signatories, and they are a self-governing, autonomous. They began in 1989, and their job is to provide an external accreditation to the post-secondary educational programs that qualify the graduates who are graduates from these programs to enter the professional engineering workplace. And the story before, like, and they have 15 signatories with over 7,000 engineering programs. And the story is that the signatories or the content of the agreement. So they agree that the graduates who graduate from any of the organization under this agreement will have almost the same recognition, rights, and privilege if they graduate from the same countries. So, for example, these 5 countries who began the Washington Accord in 1989. So, if I have an Australian engineer who graduated from Australia under Washington Accord, he or she will have almost the same privilege and recognition as the American engineer, because both of them under Washington Accord. Malaysia joined in 2009. And for example, here, Indonesia, for example, is not in the list. So an engineer graduate from Malaysia, from Malaysian program under Washington Accord will have more privilege compared, for example, to an Indonesian, an engineer graduate from Indonesian university. One of the privilege, I want to give an example of one of the privilege. For example, Australia, they have a special visa for the engineers who graduated from a program under Washington Accord. So the condition is an engineering degree from a specified educational institution, and this qualification should be accredited under Washington Accord. So this is just one example for the privilege for engineers who under Washington Accord. The content of Washington Accord, actually, they have a definition of what is the graduate should look like and what is the definition of the knowledge. So they have 12 elements for the graduates. So the graduate should have engineering knowledge, able to analyze problem, design solution, investigation, use the modern tool, consider the society and the environmental issues, with high ethics, able to work individual and in team working, have a communication skills, project management and finance, and also able to learn lifelong forever. And also the definition of knowledge in terms of Washington Accord, just an example of them, not all of them. The knowledge should be a theory-based, depend on theory, support the engineering design in the practical area in the market, and also consider the ethics and the professional responsibility when designing a solution. And finally, Malaysia and Washington Accord. Malaysia actually joined Washington Accord in 2009, and the Board of Engineers Malaysia represent Malaysia under Washington Accord. And part of the Board of Engineers Malaysia, there is the Engineering Accreditation Council, which their job is to provide an accreditation to the engineering program in the Malaysian university. And if you remember, they came to us 2 years back. And any program is accredited by the EAC is by default is under Washington Accord, since Board of Engineers Malaysia is part of the Washington Accord. And now let's go deep and know more about EAC with Abdul Aziz.
So for the Engineering Accreditation Council, the body is okay. So the body is basically based on the Board of Engineers of Malaysia for accreditation of the engineering degree programs, and basically it's established on the 2000s, and it's actually made up of representatives from the Board of Engineers, relevant learned societies, related ministries and government agencies, and industry employees of engineering technologies, and also from the engineering technicians in Malaysia and public representative. And it served to facilitate the institution of higher learning to meet the minimum standards for the accreditation for their existing engineering technologies programs, as well as proposed new programs too. And on record, the Board of Engineers Malaysia and the Accreditation Council has since awarded accreditation to 356 engineering programs conducted by 57 of them from the higher learning in Malaysia. Next. So the objective of the Accreditation Council is to ensure the graduate to be accredited engineering programs, and also to meet the minimum academic requirements for registration as a graduate engineers with the Board of Engineers Malaysia, and also to ensure a continual quality improvement culture in the spirit of outcome-based education. Next. So the function of the Accreditation Council is to set a policy and conduct approval and accreditation evaluations based on the programs, and also to maintain a list of accredited engineering programs and oversee the development and operation of accreditation and mutual recognition of programs with other countries, and also to foster the dissemination of developments and best practices of in engineering education. So for the criteria of the accreditation, first the program educational objectives, such as the in order for the for them to credit these programs, they have to know the objectives of the program itself. And second is the programming outcomes, such as the what is the program is gonna benefits the engineers itself and other things. And the third thing is the academic curriculums. Fourth is the students. Five is the academic and support staff. Six is the facilities. Seven is the quality management systems. And this is an example of the accreditation certificate. This is a certificate from University of Malaya. And this is this table is for the UTM and some of the programs that UTM accredited for. And for the Washingston Accord and EAC, as my friend mentioned, that on 2009, the Board of Malaysia was accepted as the 13th signatory of the Washingston Accord, and the EAC was instrumental in ensuring Malaysia's accredited engineer program are substantially equivalent to the engineering degrees of the signatories of the Washingston Accord, which means that the programs of the engineering programs in Malaysia can be equal to the one that in the Washingston Accord. And the students who study in universities with engineering degrees that are accredited by the MQA and Board of Malaysia may find a work in other countries that have signed in the Washingston Accord.
Hello, mic test. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So now we'll be talking about case study about Lim Kok Weng. So Lim Kok Weng currently have a situation whereby there are students that taking a subject a course in Lim Kok Wai University, but end out they figure out that their degree is not are not recognized. So what does this mean actually? So next slide, please. So this is a timeline for what is happening in Lim Kok Wai University. Out of 8 out of 98 program in the study is not accredited. So if not recognized means that this degree is totally, this course is useless. So what does the university should do is that within 30 days, Lim Kok Wai University administration should appeal against the decision or submit new document to the EAC. Then after that, there will be stage 3. Then EAC have the final decision to whether to give the course have 5 years, 2 years, or even reject. Whatever decision that we make is final already. Yeah. That's the whole ideology of this thing. Next. Okay, this one. Okay. So this one is another case study. This one is a real, this is a PhD graduate from UPM. So long story short is that he graduated from PhD in UPM under mass communication in 2020. However, when he tried to apply visa in 2021, his visa get rejected. It's because that the UPM CQA, Quality Assurance Center, did not submit the list. It is not included inside there. So now the UPM have to follow up with MQA to get the document submitted and to get approval and so on and so forth. So as a result, this PhD graduate unable to work abroad. So this is the importance of how important a course get recognized by EAC and also MQA in order to work abroad and locally. If your course, if your degree or postgraduate doesn't get recognized, means that you cannot travel. You cannot work locally or even internationally as a professional. Next. So what we learned is that your degree have to be recognized, or else you cannot work globally with your degree or even locally. It will be a waste of time and money because your degree or maybe your PhD is useless. Next. So the whole map of this EAC is secret. Have 4 stages. First is evaluation done by EAC. Then after that, the faculty, after done the report, done the initial evaluation, the school faculty have to submit a report within the 4 years after the EAC coming. Then EAC have the final decision, like what I said just now. There are 3 stages. 3 decisions, either give 5 years, 2 years, or reject it. Then one thing is important is that the school administration will have to reapply within 6 months before the expiry date. Means that, for example, our biomedical course is going to expire this year. So now school authorities should put, they are busy preparing document and also for the next evaluation already. Next. So how can we, as a student or even next time in the future, you are a parent, how do you check whether your son or your daughter degree is recognized or not? So you go to MQA website, you click in there, then you go to public university or private university, the particular one that you want to study, your son or daughter, they check the date of accreditation. There will be a time range actually. Next. Next one is EAC. So it'll be better that you check both EAC and also MQA to ensure that your degree, you get a double confirmation just in case you're afraid of your degree get recognized or not. Okay, next. Thank you. Any question?
Okay, now we proceed for the Q&A. Yeah. Yeah, few questions from the participants. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Excuse me. I heard in United Kingdom, certain university in United Kingdom, they have 3 years engineering degree program. And if I'm not mistaken, the program is not recognized by MQA. So is this, so people who graduated from this university cannot come to Malaysia and work as engineer lah.
Yes, the presenter. Yeah.
Okay, based on my understanding, if, for example, if the university X doesn't get recognized by EAC or even Washingston Accord, so basically the person go there, graduate 3 years, even though they have the degree, he's not recognized. Means that in Malaysia, they doesn't recognize it.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's according to Washington Accord. Why we need to have Washington Accord? Later I will ask question. Never mind. Okay, next question.
Why those university without EAC recognition can recruit students? Okay, so I think this one is a bug. I mean, not bug. It's like you see just now the Lincoln Wake one, right? Lincoln Wake one, 8 out of 98. 8 program out of 98 program have problem. Means that there's 90 program that have problem. I mean, 90 program that doesn't have problem. Only 8 program that have problem only. So because how to say because based on my understanding with last time with school management is that in order for a course to actually, I mean, if you still want to open a new course, they need some student to actually study first. Like, I mean, something like trial period, if not mistaken. Then after that, after the first batch of graduate student graduate from that particular degree, then only they can start to evaluate it. Right, doctor? If not mistaken, it's something like this.
Actually, it's normally you need to submit the first, how to say, the initial proposal. They will grant you a temporary license. Yeah. Actually, the accreditation process is a continuous. They call it CQI, like continuous quality improvement. Whether the program is accredited or not is whether the management team well manage the program according to their requirement. For example, each program minimum have 3 IR, or according to certain ratio of student, you need to have more IRs. And then the program had how many credit. Later I'll show you the detail. Once a program is accredited, it's not for long term, it's for a short term, like maybe 3 year, 5 year. Then within the time frame, like just now the presenter present, before the due date, you need to submit 6 months to get the license for next cycle. Yeah. Some of the program maybe at initial state they are recognized, but the management team maybe they not properly managed. Then when the panel come, they not grant the accreditation. Yeah, there's a main issue Yeah. Okay, other questions?
So for
Later I'll explain more on the EAC thing. I will show you example. Yeah. Yes. Any next question? Yeah.
Okay, the next question is from Alfie, right? So just now I missed out one important point is that, like what Dr. Tan said just now, the program has been accredited in the first place, but however, the university didn't, I mean, that doesn't submit it before
they maybe submit but not comply. Yeah, comply.
Yes.
Later I'll show you the compliance.
Yes. So that's why the cost. I mean, that's why in my slide, right, it shows that UPM have to submit the document that missing out to MQA in order to get them accredited. So this is a very huge cost opportunity for the graduate because you almost get a job. Then because of this university stuff that mistake, so it costs us a man future. So this is why we should really understand the importance of EAC and also accreditation part. Yeah.
Any last question from the participants? Yes, yeah, the presenter, the last question coming in. If the course don't have accreditation, it will be affected for student applying the job after graduation. Yes.
Okay, this one actually happened to my friend brother when he studied engineering in UMS Sabah one. Then when he graduated, he realized that his course doesn't get recognized. So when he tried to apply a job, the manager, not HR, only give him STPM salary. It's because that your degree is not recognized. So it means that they only they recognize your highest level, means that your degree is wide. So you will get the second highest one is the STPM. So and now he working as a technician operator 1.5K. Oh. I mean, this is what happened. This is a real scenario. That's why it's kind of important. But luckily, our biomedical one, if not mistaken, our batch is the last batch. Then the next third year, I mean, the current third year one have to go in for the reaccreditation process. If that's it.
No worry. I'm
No worries,
handling it.
Yeah.
Later I'll show you some facts.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Thanks for the presenters. Yeah. Okay. We have two group or one group. If you have another group, you can stand by. Yeah. You can share screen. Yeah. Then you can start. Yeah. Yeah. You can start present.
Wait, can I add one more thing? Hello.
Yes.
So if next time you guys become parent, right? Lim Conway University, this university, I think you really need to check triple time if you want to send your son or daughter there. This university, a lot of bad case happen. So better be careful.
Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
easier way is you before you and your future, like if you become parent, you enroll to any program, kindly check the accreditation list. Yeah. Those program whether they are accredited or not. Yeah. Okay. Next group, you may proceed for your presentation.
So Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. So today we from group 3 would like to present about registered engineer, professional engineers and graduate engineers, registration of Engineers Act 1967 and the regulation 1990. But before that, we would like to apologize because one of our group members cannot join the presentation today due to technical problem because of there's no electricity and internet supply in this place. So for introduction, the definition, professional engineer with practicing a certificate is a person registered under subsection 10D of the Registration of Engineers Act revised 2015. A professional engineer who is registered with the board may take up employment which requires him to carry out or perform professional engineer services. Next, be entitled to describe himself or hold himself out under any name, style, or title. For example, bearing the words of professional engineers or the equivalent thereto in any other language, bearing other words whatsoever in any language which may reasonably be construed to imply that he is a professional engineer. And the last one, using abbreviation like IR before his name or abbreviation like PENG after his name or in any way in association with his name. Use or display any sign, boards, cards, and other device representing or implying that he is professional engineers. And lastly, use the stamp as may be determined by the board. When does it enforce? It was formed in 23rd of August 1972. BEM primary role is to facilitate the registration of engineers, engineering technologies, inspector of works, partnerships and bodies corporate providing professional engineering services, and to regulate the professional conduct and practice of registered person in order to safeguard the safety and interests of the public. The amendment, the Registration of Engineers Act 1967 and Registration of Engineers Regulation 1990 have been amended in 2015 with date of operation on 31st July 2015. The amended REA will be known as Registration of Engineers Act 1967, revised 2015, whilst the accompanying regulation will be known as Registrations of Engineer Regulation 1990, revised 2015. These latest amendments are a direct result of government policies on a trade for services. As Malaysia develops towards a service industry, the issues of liberation of the services comes to the forefront in the Free Trade Agreement, FTA, which the country signs. These latest amendments directly address liberalizations issues in order for the country to meet its international obligations. So who is the enforcer? So the enforcer is the Board of Engineers. The Board of Engineers Malaysia is a statutory body and a common seal which may sue and be sued. BM falls within the ambit of responsibility of the Minister of Works, vested with wide powers. The Minister may suspend the operation of the Registrations of Engineers Act 1967 in any parts of Malaysia by notification in the gazettes. The appointment of the board members and the registrar is made by the minister. So the issues for the Act existence. So the Registrations of Engineers Act 1967 does not state the reason of its existence. It was not written in any official document by BEM. The Act has not clearly explained these fundamental issues of its existence, but for the purpose of this Act, there is hereby established a board to be called Board of Engineers, which shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession and a common seal, and which may be sued and be sued. So this is the function of the Board of Engineers Malaysia. The first one is to keep and maintain the register, process the application for registrations, fix the scales of fees, assess academic qualification, regulates the practice and conducts, act as a stakeholder in a contract for professional engineer services when requested, conduct professional development programs, and lastly, conduct professional assessment examinations. So for the structure of the BEM, BEM consists of 17 board members. It comprises of a president and 14 professional engineers, 5 representatives each from public sectors and private practice, 2 representatives each from local authorities and statutory authorities and private sectors, 1 representative each from the Board of Architects Malaysia and Quantity Surveyors Malaysia. Appointment of the board members and register is made by the minister. So the important information, the prerequisite for registration. The first issues to be addressed by the board, one of the basis tenets of liberalizations was the citizenship shall not be a mandatory requirement for the registrations. The Amendment Act now allows any qualified person to be registered with the board based solely on his or her qualification, irrespective of citizenships. Accordingly, Section 10E, Registrations of Temporary Engineer, is now redacted and the whole section has been deleted. So engineers in Malaysia, what is called by registered engineer is a graduate engineer or a professional engineer. A graduate engineer is a person that registered under subsection 10 bracket 1, and a professional engineer is a graduate engineer who has undergone practical trainings and has passed the professional assessment examination. So graduate engineers qualifications and requirement and procedures for registration. So the qualification for registrations from section 10 bracket 1A, engineering graduates from accredited institutions of higher learnings in Malaysia or overseas, graduate membership of IEM, and procedures for registration. Submit Form A accompanied by a non-refundable processing fee of RM50, a copy of degree certificates, and a copy of transcript of academic records, duly certified by the professional engineers. The qualifications, a graduate engineer who has passed the professional assessment examinations, requirements and the procedure based on section 2 bracket 10 bracket 2, registered as a graduate engineer with BEM, have satisfied the training requirement of BEM, undergo a period of training experience for minimum for 3 years, supervised by professional engineers in the same disciplines, act as a mentor, and keep systematic records of training such as logbook, technical documents, and also drawing, have passed the professional assessment examinations of BEM, be elected as corporate monitor of the Institution of Engineer Malaysia, IEM. So the practical training for graduate engineers, the first one, to be trained under a professional engineer for a period of minimum 3 years. Normally, it takes about 4 to 6 years. 2 years of general training that will provide a sound basis for professional development, and at least 1 year experience of professional career development and training provided wide exposure to various managerial and technical expertise in engineering practice. And the second one, experience should be acquired in design, site or fieldwork, management, planning, besides applications of engineering science and knowledge. So the assessments of academic qualification is BEM through its Engineering Accreditation Council, EAC, assesses and accredits engineering degrees offered by institution of higher learnings. The EAC is a coordinating body on accreditation representing the BEM, IEM, LAN, and JPA. The accreditation teams visit the institution to audit the facilities and have dialogue with academic staff and students. So the disciplinary committee is a chairman and 2 other members that are registered under professional engineers for not less than 7 years, and the duties are to receive any complaints against registered engineers from investigating committees and take action to the registered engineer referred to the section 15. Moving on to Amar.
Hello,
Yeah.
is my voice clear?
Yes.
Okay, as for the cancellation of register, the disciplinary committee canceled the registration of a registered engineer under the several circumstances, which is false certificate, fraud, dishonesty, accept bribery, commission that disciplinary committee sees as illegal, and his qualification under the section 10 been withdrawn or cancelled by the authorities. Sick or incapable to perform his duties effectively, bankrupt, and found guilty by the disciplinary committee of any act considered as infamous or disgrace. Orders to be carried out is to written warning, fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit, suspension of registration period not exceeding 2 years, and cancellation of registration. Next. As for the removal from the register, the engineer shall be removed if any registered engineer died, any engineer consultancy practice which has ceased to practice, registered engineer, graduate engineer who has failed to renew his or her registration within 1 month of expiry date, any registered engineer whose registration has been cancelled under the paragraph 15 bracket A 1AD, or any engineer consultancy practice has been cancelled under the subsection 7A bracket 5DD. And lastly, any registered engineer or engineering consultancy practice whose registration has been affected by some reason during engineering practice. Next. The certificate to be returned for the engineering. So any registered engineer or engineering consultancy whose name is removed from registered shall be returned. They have to return the certificate of registration to the board under the Act A1158 under 14 days after notification. Next. The Institution of Engineers Malaysia, IEM, is a learned society registered under the Societies Act. Membership is voluntary. The Institution of Engineers Malaysia, in short IEM, is a professional learned society for the aspiring engineering students and practicing engineering to work together for the betterment of the engineering profession. And it was formed in 1959 with 60 members only to date. So the membership stood at more than 40,000 members, making it the largest professional body in Malaysia. As for the membership, there are several memberships here. The student membership, which is open to all engineering students. Graduate membership, open to all practicing engineers registered with the BEM. Corporate fellow member, upgrading for experienced engineers, leading to professional engineer status. Associate member, non-degree engineering practitioner, diploma or certificate holders. Incorporated members, which are the professional engineers from the International Engineering Institution recognized by the IEM. Honorary members, which is a distinguished person who is contributed to engineering profession. Next. So for the functions is to promote and advance the science and profession of engineering in any or all its disciplines, to facilitate the exchange of information and ideas related to the engineering. As for the benefits is to establish networking groups amongst engineers, to attend technical talks, seminars or courses and technical visits, attend professional development program, to route to professional engineers, attend continuing professional development. Next. For the conclusion, engineering is actually strongly linked to just one aspect of the discipline, the need for mathematics and science skills. So if it is therefore essential that the members of the engineering profession should always perform their duties to the highest standards of professional integrity. Next for the case study, Nasruddin.
Hello, is my voice clear?
Yes.
Okay, now for the engineering ethics case study review for a bridge collapse in Jalan Pengarang, Kota Tinggi in 2018. For the news summary, a bridge that was still under construction suddenly collapsed in Kota Tinggi, Malaysia, causing a death of a Bangladeshi construction worker. The incident occurred on 28th of October in 2018. The victim was occupied with construction work when unfortunately he fell down with the bridge as it collapsed. Rescuers, after 20 minutes of the incident, the rescuers found the body of the worker and delivered it to the police, and the cause is still unknown, but investigations was started by public works department and local authorities. Next. So for the relation with the theme, the pre and post accident site investigation of this event and the investigation of previously similar events happens mostly due to the lack of professionalism and competence among the engineers and workers, as well as ignoring or not knowing safety protocols. The incident also suggests that workers have less practical training, especially on safety. And most of them do not know about their rights as workers to stop any work that is done in case of any mishap. Next. So, according to the Registration of Engineers Act 1967 and the Registration of Engineers Regulation 1990, BAM under Section 4, Bracket 1 of the ACT will continue to enforce continuing professional development programs for a professional engineer with practicing certificate and inspector of work. This will be in form of continuous professional development hours, which will be submitted upon renewal of the person's certificate. Clearly, a lot of project leaders violate this code of continuous training and or special training, hence unintentionally become responsible for deadly accidents in construction projects. So, roots of the problem and lessons to be learned. The main lesson to be learned is that efficiency and evaluation of performance cannot guarantee the effectiveness of safety. This is also about the virtue of ethics of the management. When the management's virtuous actions are important because it leads to the fulfillment of the operational safety and the general work ethics of a certain program. The procedure of the of building a bridge begins with creating the proper safety scaffolding for heavy load maintenance. As I quote from Dr. Muhyiddin Ramli, he said, the scaffolding must be able to withstand the superstructure and horizontal loads, as well as the additional hydraulic pressure of fresh cement. It takes 5 hours for the concrete to harden before it can carry its own weight. Before that, it relies on the scaffolding to hold it in place. Next. So, an unnoticed safety drill or an inspection by engineer or inspector by the lack of their technical competence often leads to the collapse of the construction structures. By following the Registration Act of 1967 and the Registration of Engineer Regulation 1990, amendments up to 2015, preliminary part 4, Code of Conduct, every registered person shall conduct himself honorably, responsibly, and ethically and lawfully. So, for the conclusion, the main reason of the collapse could be caused by the misalignment of the supporting beams and the improper safety scaffolding. The distributed load of the bridge might have been ununiformly distributed over the supporting scaffolds. In this scenario, the shear strength of the supporting scaffold cannot balance the weight of certain blocks or the section of the bridge, which could make the bridge to collapse. And it also couldn't support the weight of the worker. So this shows that the workers took the procedure for granted and did not carry out the work assigned to them ethically. For recommendations. In industry, there is always a need for the continuous pursuit of safe operations. This includes the addition of redundancy where appropriate, when the system engineering outlook to identify and prevent simultaneous or cascading failures created by the proximity of critical parts and subsystems. This means that if there is a safety test for a system, this does not conclude the safety test for its critical parts or subsystems because it is as important. The accident also illustrated that modifications must be carefully analyzed for failure modes, even if modification have become common practice or construction standards. Personnel must be trained and understand the components and equipment, especially fail-set components that can affect operations in an emergency. The operators must be responsible for establishing a methodology to prioritize and focus response in emergency situations. Thank you.
Okay, now we open for Q&A. Questions? Yeah. Any question from participants? Hello, any question from participants? Yeah. Without question, then there will be no marks for Q&A. Last call for questions. Okay, the question from the participant. Our Malaysia apply IR, is it a SAM log? Yeah, the presenter.
So I think for so for engineering purpose, I think that the route is the same when you're applying for IR. So you still have to apply the same procedure as normal or any other engineering courses. So you have to have minimum at least 3 years experience, and then do under supervision of professional engineers, and do some of the projects, and do a lot of work. Yeah, I think it's still it's the same route as any others engineering courses.
Later I will elaborate more on the how to get IR. The one, no worry. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, not sure can get IR or not. Even our school IR, their degree not major. That one doesn't matter. Okay, let the presenter answer. Yeah.
I think I answered the question already, because as Ruben asked, the question is literally like the same question, because how do we apply IR for the course? So the procedure is still the same, whether we're from biomedical or electrical or even mechanical or civil engineer. That's all. Thank you.
Any last question? Last question from participants. Okay, I have a question. If the graduate not registered under BEM as graduate engineer, what's the consequences? Yeah. What kind of consequences?
Because if we want to register as professional engineers, the requirement is we have to register under BEM in Malaysia, but I think it's not really going to be a major problem if we want to register as a professional engineer, but we didn't register under BEM, because the course that the person taking is still accredited from their respective universities, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, you should register as graduate engineer under BEM. Otherwise, you will be considered, how to say, illegal practice. Yeah. Yeah. Even though your degree is recognized, is the first step to get your IR. Yeah, fundamental requirement. But if you work as a engineer in Malaysia, if you are not registered under BEM, even though it's just a graduate engineer, your practice is illegal. Yeah, the government can sue you actually. Yeah. I think today I won't drag too long because it's a displacement class. Next week I will elaborate more on the EAC and also the how to get IR, the guideline and some of the forms how you fill up. So I will leave the screen on for another 2 minutes for those not yet slide in. Yeah, then we'll end this session. Wait, let me. Next week I will spend some time to elaborate on the EAC and also the IR, how to get, and also your registration as graduate engineer. Yeah, the 50 ringgit. Actually, our school will consider to sponsor, but still in discussion for your registration. The one I will give you more detail on that part next week. How to register, what kind of form to fill up. Yeah, I will leave the screen to on for another 2 minutes. For those not yet slide in, kindly slide in. Yeah. Then we'll continue next week. Next week will be longer, maybe 2 hours after presentation. I will elaborate more on the EAC and also the professional engineer. Yeah, how to get IR. Thanks for those who always slide in. You can leave the room. For those not yet slide in, I'll leave for another 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.